What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 39th episode of the Control Freak podcast. I am your host, Alex Blackard, or at Less Alex, on Twitch and Twitter, where I am streaming over on Twitch 4 nights a week now, so make sure to follow me over there. This is the only Magic the Gathering podcast devoted to all things Azorius Control in Pioneer, Standard, and Modern. Today, I have on a guest that, well, we've been trying to get you on for a while, but finally our schedules matched up. The legendary, the man, the myth, the legend, Do0mswitch. How you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great, thanks.
Great.
And first of all, I want to say thanks for the invite.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's a pleasure to be part of the show.
Awesome.
I'm really appreciated, thanks.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that we could finally, we've been talking, I've reached out to you several times, and I'm glad that our schedules lined up to where we could get you on. Before we get started, though, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Team Solitary Pro. Of course, all of their information will be down in the show notes below. And, of course, all of the lovely patrons over at patreon.com/lessalex. If you enjoy the content and want to help out, the best way to do so is over on Patreon. You get a bunch of rewards and perks and a bunch of awesome stuff over there, so go check that out. As a reminder, the podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and all of the other podcast apps. And make sure to head on over to Apple Podcasts and give me a 5-star review. Today, we are going to be really digging into the mind of Do0mswitch, and we're going to be talking to him, asking some questions about himself and blue-white control in Pioneer and a bit of Modern. So let's get into it. The first thing I like to ask all my brand new folks that I have on the podcast is really get into your origin story. So tell me, how did you first get into Magic?
Yeah, so it was super random. So we and my friends were on summer vacation, and somehow in the afternoon, a friend told me that he knew Magic, and we played a little bit in that day, and we started playing. By the time we inventing some rules, so we are not playing Magic.
Sure.
Yeah, and some of them kept playing. And somehow later on that year, I start joining them, and I finally get my starter pack, and I started to play Magic. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, I think we all, at least some that started playing when we were younger, you might play a Llanowar Elf or something and tap it and go get a forest out of your deck or something like that.
I used to play a mono white.
Oh, okay.
Was a starter pack was mono white. My first booster was Ajani, so I was super happy, and was only mono white like draft now, but was cool by that time. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So mono white was your first deck, and then you pulled an Ajani out of your very first pack. Very cool. Yeah. So what happened after that? Did you start, going to locals, or what happened with that?
Yeah, so we kept playing like 1 month, and a friend that used to go to pre-release invited us to go to one, and he kind of started it all because we met a lot of people, and we started to play on local game store. Yeah. And
awesome. Yeah, so pre-release and then F&M. Cool. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, I'm sure.
Yeah. It was like that.
So what is your favorite Magic the Gathering card of all time?
Yeah. As expected, is Chase the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chase the Mind Sculptor is a little special card because when I started to play was the best card in standard.
Sure, yeah.
And I used it to look at the card like a dream, yeah. The card was something unreal, yeah. I remember when I first opened one, my friends told me to sell it, and I said, "Oh no, I'm gonna keep this one." And it still's with me,
Oh
and
wow, you still
it's
have the
amazing.
same that same copy,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Oh wow.
Actually, and also, so I have one Jace, and my brother has one. We both open impulsives,
Oh
and
awesome.
yeah, and we made a promise that we'll keep them forever. So for a memory, if we stop playing Magic, so we signed that. So my Jace
Oh
is signed. Yeah,
cool. So you signed his and he signed yours. Very cool. That is special. I love those type of stories. Those like because I also pulled a Jason Mind Sculptor, and it was like the reason that got me into play more competitively. So that's cool little connection that you and I have. Wow,
yeah.
that's special. Cool. So what I you know, you're obviously just an Azorius. You are a legend in the Azorius community now because you're just racked up
A little bit.
so many. And I mean, still, even in Pioneer, you have so many leagues under your belt. Last time I checked, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were at 5 leagues this season.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
I stopped playing Pioneer since I went to the Grand Prix. Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah. So, that's with
Yeah.
stopping, So, but initially, obviously you pulling the Jace probably had something to do with it. But initially, what drew you into playing Control?
Yeah, actually, it was on the very first Friday Night Magic. So
Okay.
I went to the local game store and I saw a person playing Super Friends Jeskai, and I remembered he was playing Jace, Elspeth, and another Planeswalker. I don't remember which one. I think it was Ajani, and
Okay.
I was like, "Whoa, that deck is really cool." He kept playing all the abilities, and I fell in love with the deck. Yeah.
Okay, so you just saw somebody at FNM
Yeah.
playing a Super Friends deck with Jason friends. Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
awesome. That is really cool. So
Yeah.
what currently, there's a lot of formats. You were the master of modern, whenever blue white was in its best position, you had so many trophies on
Yeah.
Moto.
Yeah.
But currently, what is your favorite format? Because Pioneer kind of didn't change the game, but it changed the game, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But my favorite format, I think it's still modern
Okay.
because um, modern is more powerful,
Yeah.
and we can play what we want, what cards we want. In Pioneer, it's more difficult, or it's good or it's not good.
Yeah.
It's really strange. Modern, we can help the card that we like to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a format where as long as you are good with your deck, and I think it's more so true in modern than it is Pioneer, definitely. But as long as you're good with your deck and you have the reps, and obviously you are very good with your deck, you can play pretty much whatever you want as long as you're playing like competitive cards.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I'm enjoying more modern lately.
yeah,
I'm not sure, but I love Pioneer. It's difficult to say,
yeah.
and I'm enjoying also Standard. That Blue White is amazing in
Oh
Standard.
yeah.
Blue White he kinda had it all at the moment.
Yeah, I actually Zach Allen was actually on the last podcast, so he just won the team open with blue white control and
Yeah,
standard. So
I
yeah.
saw.
Oh, cool. So yeah, so modern still, and how are you doing in modern right now? You still
I'm doing great. I did top 32 on my last PTQ. I lost the last two rounds with Band Control, the new
oh
deck.
okay,
So
cool.
it's cool. Yeah.
So still blue white X, you're playing green, but
I
um,
try a new version of the deck, but I think Blue White Stone Blade it's still the best Blue White deck. Yeah.
okay, so you're just switching it up for that one tournament just to see how it was. Cool.
Yeah.
So I also like to dig into, the moments that define you as a Magic player. So in your mind,
Mhm.
what was your highest high in Magic? The pinnacle so far?
So I think the pinnacle was the weekend when I almost won it all on Magic Online. I played Mox monthly and I won Mox monthly.
Oh,
And
wow.
the day after I made second on the PTQ. And then the deck was the same day Austin won the Grand Prix. And yeah, it was the weekend that changed my Magic life, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. And that was with Blue Eye Control in Modern, right?
Yeah, was the mythic version, yeah.
Yeah, was that during Hogak or no?
Yeah, during Ogak, yeah.
All right, so you have just several extremely good finishes, and that was at the time, you still got a lot of magic left in you. So,
Yeah.
but so flip side of that coin, we like to start with the highest high, but what currently, just that one moment that you just you really want back and kind of is your lowest low?
I don't know. I don't think I have many of bad times playing Magic. I think when I'm doing bad, I start thinking to myself what I'm doing wrong
Sure.
and what can I change. I think the most important is to play at your best and don't think about winning. When I think about winning, I start doing poorly
That's fair.
because you need to really think about your plays or it's going to be not as good as you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great actually piece of information. I mean, because if you get so caught up in winning that you're gonna really probably overthink it. I think a lot of people do that too. So that's a good piece of advice too. So do you remember? I call it the light bulb moment, but basically whenever you went from, oh, hey, I really like Magic, I like playing this game is fun, to, okay, I'm clicking into a different gear, like the level up moment that happened.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Was there a specific moment?
Yeah,
or?
I remember.
Oh,
So
okay, cool.
I was playing FNMs and I was playing on cockroaches. I don't know how to
Sure.
say this.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
Cockatrice, yeah.
yeah, and the friend on FNM used it to be better than me. Yeah. He told me that I should play Magic Online, and I think was a key moment that changed me playing competitively because I learned so much. So I thought I was better on my start, but on Magic Online I was nothing. I need to start learning again, and that improved my game a lot. Yeah, I think was the key moment. Yeah.
I gotcha. How long do you think that took you? Like from the day you downloaded Moto to, now to where you are now?
I don't know. Actually, I have a nice story when
Sure.
I started playing Modo. So I was a kid, so I didn't have so many money to put on Magic Online, and I put enough money to build my deck, and I put $2, yeah, to play the single player one against one.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
the single player queues. Yeah.
yeah. I was playing Solar Flare by that time, and I remember that was only with that two tickets that I made all my Magic account because I kept winning,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, it was. I don't know if I can do that now. It's like crazy
That's
when I think
insane.
about it. Yeah,
You
and I
start.
remember. Yeah, and I remember to go through the dailies, and when I start doing well on the dailies, I kept building my collection. It was a really nice start. Yeah. I don't think I can do that now.
That's
It's
amazing though. So you
yeah,
built your entire collection off of
yeah,
$2. That's
and the
incredible.
deck. Yeah, it's
And
really crazy.
you just kind of jumped full on in and just haven't looked back since. That's incredible. I couldn't imagine doing that.
Yeah,
um,
I can't now too. I don't know how I did it that. So
yeah, no,
it's
certainly
really great.
it is that is a hell of a story.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, this is kind of an loaded question a bit, but you've been you've been kind of that dude on Moto as the Azorius person, the Azorius player, but like, how did you become such a master of control? And basically, I mean, every format, you know, you had the crazy, 12 league or 12 leagues on modern, but you also have like the 5 trophies in Pioneer. Do you play standard on there, or like, how did you become a master of control in basically every format?
Yeah, as I said, I think it was I met people better than me that helped me a lot improve my game at Magic, and I started to play Magic online, and I like more control decks than the other ones, so I think I kept playing control decks, and now I think I can play it in a nice level. I don't know how to say. Yeah, comes with practice. Yeah,
perfect practice makes perfect, right?
yeah.
That's actually something too. I think you can watch as many videos as you want, as many as many LSV videos as you want, right?
Yeah,
that
helps me a lot too. I by that time I watched a lot of streams, and I think one of the most things the better thing you can do to improve is watch better players than you, and learn how they approach the game, and you learn a lot from that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been watching a lot because LSV's been like streaming blue white in Pioneer a couple weeks ago, and yeah, I'm just trying to soak it all in. Cool. So, we're kind of focusing this episode a little bit on Pioneer, but in your mind, what is the best deck in Pioneer currently?
Yeah, at the moment it's blue-black invert by far.
By far, okay. And what makes that deck, by and large, the best deck in your opinion?
The consistency, the resiliency, and they have the best spells to interact. Yeah, they are cheap, they are effective. Fatal Push and Dot Seize.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something. It's interesting that we finally have a blue-black deck, because that was my thing. My first thought when Pioneer started was to go blue-black control, just because Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, and Dig Through Time.
Me too.
Yeah. And now we have this control deck that disguises itself very well as a combo deck. Or maybe it's a combo deck that disguises itself as a control. Either way, it is. I mean, I agree. Would you, with that being said, if you were to go to a Grand Prix tomorrow, would you play blue-white control or would you play inverter? I got to know.
If I wasn't me, I don't know. Like, if I start to play Magic today and I want to win, I think that's the best deck.
Okay. I respect that. You gotta, you're traveling all this time, and you're, maybe getting a hotel or whatever. You want to win. You want to make your time, worth it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I found on blue-black when I started on Pioneer, I thought that blue-black was better than blue-white at the beginning. So I built a deck, and I found that blue-black needed win condition, because you had all the interaction and somehow you lost the game.
Yeah.
And the combo fixes the blue-black amazingly.
Yeah, it was like Gear Hulk was good, but it could still die very easily, and you don't have Teferi. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So, you, and I've said this, I keep saying it, you are the control master, but what is the most important thing to becoming to really master the archetype? Like, what is the single most important thing that any piece of advice, anything that any listener or viewer gets out of this episode, what is the one thing that you could give them? One piece of wisdom.
That a lot of that's a lot of things I can say.
Sure, yeah. If you want to, fire off several,
So
go for it.
so control is like that premier's interaction, and
Yep.
we need to know first of thing the rules of Magic. We need to know how to interact well with opponents' cards. We need to sequence well. We need to understand when we need to be proactive or passive. So that's the best advice I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, being prepared, definitely
Yeah.
knowing when to really go for it and turn the corner and just say, okay, well, if they got it, they got it. Definitely some
Yeah.
good pointers there.
And sometimes you need to think, what happens if I play this planeswalker or this card? And sometimes if you play that card, they can't come back because you are putting yourself ahead. So it's not that easy to play blue white because you need one of the best things, difficult things to play control is you need to read signals a lot of the times to
Yeah.
understand what is going on from the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, the information game, very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so kind of flip side of that coin, you just said basically best ways to improve or things to get better at playing control. What
Yeah.
in your mind is one huge mistake that newer control players make?
It's like the opposite. Some some new players, I think read signals is the most important thing because you kind of go to a trap sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't you are not uh, um, you are not proactive or passive enough, and sometimes you play your spells at wrong time. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really difficult to explain how control works because control is like the ultimatum of the magic because you need to play your deck while you understand your opponent's deck. So
Yeah, you definitely, and that's where the preparation comes in, knowing the
yeah,
meta, knowing cards that they could potentially have to counteract your
yeah,
cards. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and it takes a while too. I mean,
yes.
I've been playing Control for 10 years, and I would not even consider myself to be a master.
I
So,
don't consider myself to be a master too.
um, so now we're gonna talk a bit about Modern. Um, so speaking of Modern, though, why is Stoneblade right now having so much more success than traditional blue white, like reactionary, no win, quote unquote, no
Yeah,
win con control?
yeah. So as I said before, I think Whitestone Blade it's better than White Control in
Yeah.
general. Because the deck doesn't depends on the other decks. You have a proactive plan. If that proactive plan is good, your deck is going to be good. And at the moment, the plan is good enough, so the deck is performing well.
Gotcha.
And control deck, you need to be prepared for the meta game and switch cards. So this deck doesn't switch so many cards. It's more about the plan. If the plan works, deck is going to work.
That
It's
makes sense.
different.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people could be doing in Modern, and kind of like what you said earlier, where Pioneer, there's several good decks, but
Yes.
typically, generally speaking, in Modern, there's a lot of decks that could just roll over Control.
Yeah.
If you have like the wrong sideboard plan, or even like
Yeah.
4 or 5 main deck cards that are just incorrect for that weekend, you just get rolled.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to say that control is always a top tier deck, but you need to have the perfect cards
Yeah.
for the meta game, or you are going to do badly. Yeah.
That's very, if you have the correct 75 pegged for the tournament, You
Yeah.
know, you can take it down. I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Cool. So this kind of goes right into that. How do you choose flex cards going into a tournament or going, you know, you play a lot of leagues, you play a lot of
Yeah.
the Moto challenges and stuff. How do you choose each and every single one of those tournaments, the correct, you know, 5 to 10 cards, quote unquote, flex cards?
Yeah. So basically, it's about testing. So Magic Online is amazing for that.
Yeah.
We can you on Magic Online there is always a meta game always running, and we can see the direction it's going to be on the next week.
Sure.
So we kind of we say prevent speculate on the meta game, and we can find the better cards to the weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, basically look at the leagues from before, look at the challenges, the preliminaries, the premieres, and really just try and crunch the numbers and fix those flex spots, basically.
Yeah, and when we are testing, people are we can see what is trending and what cards people are trying new. So it's easy to have a plan against their plan. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Be prepared. Kind of what it almost all of these questions just go back to be prepared. So in your mind, what is the best, or if you want to give a couple, you know, what is the best resources for not even new control players, but just control players in general to really hone their abilities and keep up with the meta games and their abilities?
The best advice that I have for new players is to start playing on your local game store and learn from the best players on that store.
Yeah.
What they could do differently, and I don't know what to say, but try to different lines. You don't need to play the card the same. You don't need to play the card every time the same way.
Yeah.
You can explore. You can try different things, and the best thing is to learn from the others. Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn and try. Yeah.
That's one thing too that I've noticed just from watching different, I mean, control players that I respect and I think are good players, and it's just like you'll see a hand of like 4 or 5 cards and you know, the board's one way or the other, and they play something that I was like, oh, well, I would have done this differently. And it's interesting how many lines, because it's always so contextual on what the correct line is. And you might not even know until 2 or 3 turns down the road that you made the either right or wrong play. So it's really interesting just seeing how other good control players play, and then like speaking with them after the match and saying, oh, well, why'd you do that? Oh, well, this is what I would have done. And it's just sharing information with people that are preferably better than you, but at least on the same skill level. It's
always nice to replay your game.
Oh yeah, that's one nice thing about Moto too, is you can go back and watch your plays.
Yeah, but I didn't want to say replay. It's like evaluate your plays that you made.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So you can after the game you can think about what you did wrong and talk with other people, and that helps a lot. Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Cool. And then so the last question I have for you, and this is one I've been asking almost all my guests recently, because it's been, and I know you're on Twitter and you're seeing how blue-white mages react to certain new cards and everything. But the newest card, the standout card in blue-white control, at least in Pioneer and Standard, I suppose, has been Dream Trawler. And when that card got printed, or spoiled rather, and now that it's seeing play, there's a huge argument, or at least there was, of is Dream Trawler better than Dragon Lord Ojutai? This is something that I don't know if on your Twitter feed it was blowing up, but a lot of the people I follow, granted, are Azorius mages. So, but oh my gosh, it just blew up and it pretty much dominated my feed for at least an hour. But in your mind, which is better, Dream Trawler or Dragon Lord Ojutai?
In my opinion, the best card is Dream Trawler. I think Dream Trawler is a better version of Ojutai.
All right, you heard it here. That ends the discussion. It ends the debate.
No.
The legend Do0mswitch has made it final.
No, I actually think Dream Trawler is going to make Blue White be the best deck in Standard for a long time.
It's so hard to deal with. As long as you have like one, if you have like 2 cards in your hand, then you're just gravy.
It's not easy to deal. And what the card does, it's out of this world. So it starts to generate card advantage, and you can't kill it. So it's unfair.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, Dragon Lord Ojutai was better when hits, but was more fragile.
Yeah, definitely. Because you are heavily incentivized with both, really, but specifically with Ojutai to attack. And if you attack, then it loses its hexproof and it dies.
That was one of the problems of that card.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk for quite some time about this argument, but I will just leave it at that. Okay. So yeah, kind of wrapping up here. Where can folks find you on the internet? Do you have? I mean, obviously you're on Twitter. I know you have a Patreon as well, don't you?
Yeah. I have a Patreon focus on Blue White Modern and a little bit on Pioneer. Yes.
All right, so it's at Do0mswitch with a 0 as the second O, right? Yeah. So at Do0mswitch on Twitter, and then I'll put your Patreon link if you'd like in the show notes for the show. Is there any other places? Do you write articles or anything like that, or?
No, it's just that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So.
Cool. Yeah, so that's this week's episode, everyone. Thanks for listening and watching. Do0mswitch, again, thank you so much for making the time and getting on the podcast and talking some control for the listeners.
Thanks a lot for having me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say sorry for my English.
Oh, no, it was great. It was you did.
It's really difficult for me.
No, you did a great job, and I do appreciate it that you set the time aside, and because I know where you are. What time is it where you are?
Yeah, it's 7 a.m.
At 7 a.m. and it's about 1 a.m. here, so we are definitely kind of a challenge, but we figured it out finally. And this is an episode that folks were asking, why hasn't Do0mswitch been on yet? He is the Azorius guy. It's like, well, there's some little things that we had to work out, but finally got you on. Thanks everyone for listening. I appreciate you. Again, shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Team Solitary Pro. And make sure to head on over to Apple Podcasts, give this a 5-star review. I'm going to start shouting out, because it feels good to get mentioned, shouting out anyone who gives a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts. And again, if you do enjoy my content, I stream, I'm on YouTube, and I have the podcast. If you dig any of these things and want to help it get better, head on over to patreon.com/lessalex. I have a bunch of perks. You get a shout out on the podcast in addition to all the show notes and just a lot of cool stuff over there. But thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Make sure to keep spreading that Azorius propaganda and be kind to one another, Magic players. Have a great night.